Hello and welcome to Filmi Ladies. This week we are going to be filmy and TV ladies as we talk about a variety of all the stuff we've been watching for the last few weeks. It is winter. It is a good time to curl up and watch things. And so we've both been doing some TV and some movies. And I thought we'd start with the movies. Pitu, what movies have you been watching?
I watched two movies that I really liked, and then I tried to watch two movies and I couldn't get past 15 minutes, and I was like, life's too short. And then I watched one movie that I really wanted to see and that is relevant to our outfits today. But that was unfortunately an Avoid Yaar. Um,
Mm.
so the Avoid Yaar movie is, of course, Gulab Gang. And we're both Gulabi ladies today. I had high hopes from this one, and I have to agree with our viewer Shalomit Batdwara. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. I'm sorry, but I agree with that commentator when they said that the movie had a ton of potential. The idea was really good, but they just didn't execute it very well. The direction was very like weirdly choppy, and I know that Juhi got a lot of kudos for her role because they were like, "Oh, she was such a good villain," blah blah blah. I actually thought she overdid it. Um, she did. So she's good in the like the first 5 minutes of her smarminess, where she's doing the side eye and she's like, like, and you can see that behind that baby face looks evil,
Mm.
but you can't do the smarminess every single second that the camera is on you. She just overdoes it to the point that she looks like a cartoon. So I was like, no.
So this film came up when we were talking about people going against type.
Yes.
I have not seen a ton of her movies. And in my mind, she's not an overdoer in her comedy roles. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I actually think she's extremely gifted in comedy. I think Madhubala and Juhi Chawla, and of course
Mm.
Sri Devi, are the three names that come to mind when I think of really great comic timing. She's great in her comedies. She's good in her romantic movies as well with Shah Rukh. Um, I think she falters when she does drama
Mm.
because I think her helium voice gets in the way. So, do you remember our common friend Aspi? He once said that Juhi Chawla basically sounds like she like took a puff from like a helium balloon and then went on set and then she started talking. And so I think it takes away, unfortunately, from her like
Mm.
dramatic sequences because it's like a little high pitched and I don't know. But I did not like her in Gulab Gang. I just felt like she needed to be reined in quite a bit. And Madhuri was good, but again, I agree with our commentator when they said that for a person who has a supposedly author backed role, it, it's very underwritten, her role. She's basically just,
Oh.
it's so strange. There's no shades to her character. We don't know why. Like, she just glowers at everyone and she does a good job of glowering at them. And she has like the scenes where she and Juhi are together, you want them to be so satisfying because as people who grew up watching like 90s movies, it's like, ooh, it's Madhuri and Juhi, it's a face off, yay. And then it's just kind of like a damn squib. So Gulab Gang is unfortunately an Avoid Yaar.
Mm.
But I hope someone picks it up again and like remakes it. Like if there's a movie I would like someone to remake, it would be this one. I did hear that there's a documentary version on the actual Gulabi Gang, and that one is
Yes.
actually good.
Hmm.
Like the documentary is good, supposedly.
I feel like they, excuse me, came out at about the same time as well, right? So that was a little
Apparently,
confusing, I
yeah.
believe, but well, that's too bad.
And then the two movies that I tried to see and I just couldn't. One is Sita Ramam. It has Mrinal Thakur and Dulquer Salman, and I had heard good things about it. It's become very, very popular. It's a
Mm.
southern movie. It's Tamil, and it had become very popular down south. And I tried watching it, and after 20 minutes, I was like, this is so slow. Like I can't. So I just switched it off. I didn't even get to like Ronald Thakur, but I was just like, I can't take this anymore. And then what was the other movie that I was like, whatever. Phone Booth. I tried giving that a shot. I like that you're laughing because you knew.
I didn't know because sometimes stuff surprises you. And I
Yeah.
think I believe I said before I watched the similarly named Boot Police
Oh,
and really enjoyed that. Like I didn't expect to, and I really enjoyed it. Like, yes, it was a sort of confection light kind of deal, but I
yeah.
really had fun with it. So you never know.
Yeah. And I mean, if something's going to be horror and something's going to be comedy, that genre is so much my
Yeah.
jam. Plus,
Yeah.
it has Ishan Khattar and Siddhant Chaturvedi. I really do like Siddhant Chaturvedi very much. And with Katrina, you never know. I mean, sometimes she's good, sometimes she's bad. In Phone Booth, her face does not move. It is completely immobile. I couldn't tell if she was smiling or frowning or like really. I mean, not that she was ever known for expressions. No one ever called Katrina Kaif the expression queen, but her face really does not move. It was like a stone sculpture. So that was, I don't know how her career is going to go from here, because you got to lay off the Botox and the fillers, lady. I'm sorry. But yeah, again, 15 minutes. I really wanted to enjoy it. And I was like, nah. And I switched that off. So one, avoid yaar, and two, also avoid yaars unless you have the patience to sit through it and see it through.
Hmm.
But I did watch two amazing movies that I highly recommend. One, I'm very late to the party because it released in March 2022. And I told you to watch it, Beth, but I know you're feeling scared. But it is so good if you can make yourself watch it. And that is Jalsa, with Shefali Shah and Vidya Balan. And oh my God, Shefali Shah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she is probably the most talented actress we have right now
Hmm.
in Hindi cinema. She is mind blowing. She
Hmm.
is so good. Vidya Balan is also so good. Now that's a movie that really satisfied me, because with Gulab Gang, I felt so cheated because I wanted
Hmm.
like, Madhuri and Juhi like to see them on screen. But every time I've seen Shafali Shah with someone else on screen, it's always been so satisfying. Like her with Alia and Darlings, her with Priyanka Chopra in many of their scenes in Dil Dhadakne Do, and now in Jalsa. Phenomenal movie, highly recommend. Vidya is also superb. It is like a whodunit or more like a howdunit or something. So I don't want to give anything away, but
Okay.
it is
Hmm.
on Netflix, and y'all should watch it. It is spectacular.
Hmm.
And I also watched Tiruchitrambalam, which is Tamil. I watched it purely for Dhanush, because he is amazing. The only Hindi movies I've seen of Dhanush have been Ranjana, which was my first introduction to Dhanush. And Ranjana is a terrible movie, and I don't like it at all. But Dhanush really blew me away. And I was like, okay, I can see why this guy is a big deal.
Hmm.
And then I watched Atrangi Re, Poor Me. I only watched it for Dhanush, though. And he did not disappoint. I
No,
mean, I
he's
would
good in that.
never, yeah, no, Sarah was terrible. Actually, like, was everyone in that movie was terrible, but Dhanush was great. And his little monologue that he has where he expresses his frustration in Tamil, I loved it so much. And in that scene, I did wish that I could understand Tamil, because I would have loved to really hear what he was saying
Hmm.
instead of having to resort to subtitles. But he's just such a spectacular actor. And so I watched Tiruchitrambalam for him. I watched it on Einthusen. And his co-star Nithya Menon was a real like revelation to me.
Huh.
I have no idea who this lady is. I've never
No.
seen any of her films. She was lovely. You would adore her. And it's just a very sweet romantic movie. Everyone in that movie is so good. If you want to watch something very like charming and sweet and lovely, and if you like Dhanush a lot, then you should watch it. And there's a song in it. It's called Mekam. The song itself is okay, but the choreography is fabulous. And there's these accounts I follow that they have been like they've been doing their own iteration of the dance, and it's really good. So I recommend Tiruchitrambalam and I recommend Jalsa. I do not recommend Phone Booth, Sitaramam, or Gulab Gang, but I am interested in hearing what people have to say about Phone Booth and Sitaramam. Over to you. What did you watch?
I also have an avoid yar. Well, in that I didn't get much
You have
beyond
to
about
do this. Avoid yaar.
15 or 20 minutes. And this is extra useful for this because the film is double XL, which
Oh, okay.
as a plus sized woman, I wanted to I wanted to find interesting commentary on that about what, all women, because we have bodies, have to deal with in society. I could not watch this film. It was, it was the writing for me. It was terrible. It felt very facile. And maybe I turned it off too soon, but nothing I read or heard about it made me think it was really going to get any better. We love Huma Qureshi.
Yeah.
I'm kind of neither here nor there about Sonakshi. She's okay
Uh,
in some things like that, whatever. Um, and I know that they both have experienced people being ridiculous about their bodies in their
mhm.
careers, and for all I know, their private lives as well. And uh, I just couldn't watch it. I couldn't.
How was
So,
their acting in those first 15 minutes?
so I thought Huma was fine. The film opens with her character, and then it switches to introduce Sonakshi's, and that's basically where I turned it off. It was pretty soon into her, so I didn't give her part even as much of a shake as Huma's. I thought Huma was fine in what I saw, but um, I will also admit that I think sometimes experiences relate out of their cultural context, and sometimes they don't. And I said that the opening of the film does have a lot with her and her mother. So I'm wondering if
Mm,
there's like Indian family dynamics, or at least stereotyped Indian family dynamics that I just don't like. I understand in films, but I don't personally experience.
right.
So maybe that there's stuff there that I didn't, couldn't really latch onto or something. But if you have seen it, any of our listeners, and would like to tell me to try it again, I'm very open to hearing that, because I think the idea of the film is good, but it just sounds, I just couldn't do it. And sometimes you read about films and you think, yes, but here are the things about it that will make me like it anyway, or make me want to give it a shot
Mm,
anyway. And it had a few of those things, but it just wasn't enough for me. So I abandoned it.
okay.
And then as I stated, one of my resolution or goals for 2023 is to watch more Dharmendra films. So I'm off to a good start with that. I watched Sharafat with
Okay.
him and Hema Malini and Ashok Kumar and various others from 1970. That one's, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to tell anyone to run out and watch this. This is Dharmendra as a a college professor who starts tutoring Hema, who is a courtesan,
Oh,
or something like that,
okay.
dancer, uh, um, who is under the sway of a madam who I think it's actually her aunt, not just like
Oh,
calling her auntie. I think it's actually her aunt. I'm not clear on that, but anyway, and she's very bright, but she's never had a lot of formal schooling and what's going on here.
mhm.
And then the community feels they want to shame him because he's in love with this woman, and like,
Oh,
well, it's clearly trying to be messagey, and it's just a
yeah.
little heavy and all. This is
Mm.
not Dharmendra's finest incarnation,
Okay.
I would say. I want to, I don't know, it needs a little bit more lightness, I think, for
It doesn't
me.
sound like a Dharmendra role.
Yeah, it's not particularly. And I forgot to look into this. Dharmendra has done several films where he is in the Hindi remake of a Bengali original. And this had Bengali original vibes to me for some reason. And the
Mm,
director is Asit Sen. Um,
mm,
so I was like, oh, well, and I don't think that it actually was. I should have looked this up before talking, but I was just thinking about this.
uh,
And sometimes, again, things come out of their cultural context and they don't work, or maybe there's been a time lag and it doesn't
yeah.
translate as well or whatever. But it was okay. And Hema has some great dance numbers, of course.
Okay.
Um, and watching her flirt with him is very funny. Because you're like, yeah, if
Oh,
Dharmendra was your private tutor, yeah, you probably would flirt with him, right? Like, look at him.
yeah.
And she clearly has the upper hand in terms of being comfortable in this situation. So it's fun watching her wield that power, but I can't really particularly recommend this film to
It's
people.
so funny to me when we watch like Hindi movies or Hindi TV shows or anything, or even like American stuff where people have crushes on their teachers. And it was like, who are these people? I have literally never had like a very charming or attractive teacher in my life that I had a crush on. I mean, I've had teachers that I thought were really like smart or whatever, but crushing on a teacher, I just never had any teacher that was worth crushing on. So I feel very left out. Like I want to have like a I crushed on this teacher story, and I just don't. Do you have a I crushed on my teacher story, Beth?
I had a professor in college that I was very
Ooh,
like goggle-eyed about, and like
tell
obviously
us about him.
nothing happened or anything, but like the whole Indiana Jones, right on your eyelids thing. Uh,
Ooh.
I did not do that, obviously, but yeah, but he also taught something that I thought was fascinating. I'm not going to say anymore so as to protect all innocent parties myself,
Tell me
but it
after
was,
we finish recording. I need to
but
know.
it was, yeah, but yeah, not beyond
Your
that.
face lit up when you talked about him, though.
I mean, I did also love these classes. I would have loved them, whoever was teaching them, but I just, at 20, just thinking like, oh, what an amazing, to be a scholar of this particular field. Like, wow, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
I should go back. I did look up the film I was just talking about. The author, the screenplay is by Nibendu Ghosh. So again,
Okay.
Bengali vibes, obviously, who I think is a novelist as well as a screenwriter, right? So
Okay.
maybe this was adapted from, or maybe a play. I don't know. But
Maybe.
anyway, I do not recommend, but you don't have to run out of your way. It's not an avoid yar. It's just a don't bother,
Okay.
And then I watched the most excellent Yash Chopra film, Admi or Insan, which I loved. I really thought that I had watched most of Yash Chopra's films as a director. I definitely haven't. I'm missing about half of them. This is very much, if you take Waqt and Kalapatar and kind of smush them together, that's kind of this film. It's not as good as either of those, but it is very enjoyable. Again, Dharmendra is the lead. He's the upstanding, more virtuous, not quite brother, because it's a friend relationship, not a brother relationship. The friend is Feroz Khan, whom I also really enjoy most of the time. He plays the what you quickly learn is corrupt businessman, but he has done a lot of good for Dharmendra. He funded his education abroad, where Dharmendra's gone to learn to be an engineer. He comes back. They're working on big projects. They're building a dam or something like that. And it's got this strand of Dharmendra actually has this song where it's about how the world is going to take notice of India now, like it has, modernism vibes happening. Yeah. And Dharmendra's choreography in this song is just to go like this and proclaim India's greatness, and the world will notice us and we won't go begging on the streets anymore, and our sweat will be seen as pearls, and
oh Lord.
It's a lot. It does sound like something that a certain government might put out these days. But it is.
Did they have a special thank you acknowledgement to Manoj Kumar or anything by any chance?
It has those feelings, yeah. Although it's so much better than anything he would ever make.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Yash Chopra, newsflash, is a master at masala films, right? Yes. And this film, it's not the action adventure masala that I most love, but it is definitely masala. It's got, a love triangle. Mumtaz is there as this. She's got the famous Zindagi Ittifaq Hai song, which I've definitely heard before. She is kind of this sex bomb character who also, actually was thinking this morning, she kind of acts as a, I'm blanking on what it's called when a human actually just represents an idea in a story. She's almost like a walking analogy or something, but I think she is embodying coincidence. So she kind of flits in and out and does
serendipity or something.
Yeah. Okay. She's fantastic. They use her kind of just the right amount. Saira Banu is the romantic lead. I'm not really sold on her as an actress particularly. I think she's okay. You were telling me you think she's quite good in some comedies.
Yes.
So maybe I haven't seen
the
right
her
things.
In comedies. But it's the same with Mumtaz. I love Mumtaz in comedies.
I love Mumtaz.
But I'm not a fan of Mumtaz or Saira Banu when they start doing dramatic stuff, because I like them in frothy romances, and they're so cute and pretty.
This is definitely more of a drama, I would say. She's also supposed to play a social worker who works in the village where the workers on the construction project live, and you're like, I don't buy that at all. At all. Her outfits are so choice. Go to my Twitter feed. I tweeted a bunch of them, and I sent some to Pitu as well. They are so good. Again, my fashion lack of knowledge is going to betray me here. She's got this salwar kameez where on the top is one giant paisley going across the top, and then the hem of the kameez has another giant one. I've never seen such overblown sized paisleys other than on a sari border. Oh, they're so cool. Her outfits are so cool. She's got this green salwar kameez with ruffles along the edges, and then on the dupatta, so she kind of looks like a lettuce, but it really works. And then
there's the pointy bras.
A lot of bullet bras, and this is 1969, which is at least from the US quite late for the bullet bra, but it's an interesting effect. She and Dharmendra are not really selling it as a romantic pair to me, but it's still cute. and they're both like noble-minded, trying to improve the world kind of thing. So that's cute. There's business shenanigans. Feroz Khan turns out to be corrupt and is like buying, you know, selling off materials and getting shoddy ones. And there's a whole bunch of other people in it. It's really very good. And there's a weird Air Force bit with a song, and then there's an Air Force plane catches fire as it lands, and so there's like dramatic.
Oh, maybe it's because of the bad materials or something.
Exactly.
So
Which I did not see coming, and I was like, oh.
It's giving me a little bit like Raju Bangia Gentleman vibes as well, because of the corruption and the bridge that collapses and all of that jazz. So I know you said Mumtaz represents like coincidence or whatever, but is she Feroz Khan's girlfriend? What is?
No, she's not. Interestingly, you think I thought she was going to be, but she's not. I think maybe she's kind of in love with him, but never says so, but that's not really emphasized. She is the secretary at the construction company, but she also keeps showing up as like, she also just bumped into Dharmendra on the ship on the way back from Europe. And so that, you know, that's where she kind of introduces the idea of how coincidence works. And she's had all these different jobs. Like, so she was going to be a film star, but then the production company faded. And then she was like an import export guy's girlfriend, but then the police told her to go back to India. So that's why she's coming home. It's all really very interesting.
Because I was going to say the pictures. Okay, so you guys have to know this. Usually I'm the one who spams Beth, because I am one of those terrible people that are spamming everyone, and all my friends have me on mute on WhatsApp because I will just spam people. Beth is probably one of the few people who is not muted.
I do not have you on mute. Oh, you'd have to be very egregious for me to do that.
But you do leave me on read, because I'll send her like 25 WhatsApps and she will not respond, and then she will respond 3 hours later, because I am a spammer. I get it. I'm one of those, like, I think something, I have to tell you immediately. Like immediately. So
I'm also 2 hours later than you in time zone. So sometimes I'm like about ready to fall asleep. I'm like, I'll read this tomorrow.
But so usually I'm the one who's always spamming Beth, and then I'll spam her, and then I'll feel like, okay, maybe I spammed her too much. Like, okay, now yet another person is going to mute me. But I was so happy, because when she was watching Admir and San, she kept spamming me, and I was so delighted. I was like, yes. She sent me like 25 WhatsApp messages, and they were all like screenshots of Sarah Banu's outfits and Mumtaz's outfits. Like there was Mumtaz in like some leopardy thing. So right now, when you told me that, well, when you said she's like a secretary or something, I was like, okay, her wardrobe, I don't know how she financed it on a secretary salary, because it was too fancy.
Thing. I think she's also kind of like gangster mall / but also she sings and dances, and also she carries a lighter that looks like a pistol.
Okay.
And if you think that that's going to be important later when they introduce it at the beginning, you are correct. It is. She has a ring that looks like an eye that actually opens up and she can put drugs into. Like it's a really interesting part. I just love Yash Chopra as a director. And obviously often as a producer, and his brother produced this one. Like it is so good. The man for sure knew what he was doing, and it's super wonderful. If you haven't watched it, or if again you've never seen it as an adult, I would recommend. I think it probably holds up well. This is not Feroz Khan's best work, I would say. Like I enjoy him more in the like sort of cowboy swagger.
I love him in those
stuff. We need to watch one then and talk about it, because a lot of people, those don't work for everybody, but I really find that completely enjoyable. So
our friends at Khandan, they were once gonna review Jambaz, and they recorded it, and then Asim sent me a message, and he was like, we were just recording Jambaz, and then I said to Sujoy and Amrita, this feels like a Pitu movie. This feels like a movie that she would love, and we 100%. Should have invited her. But they were already mid-recording, and then I was like, I love Jambaz. How dare you not invite me? I am very upset with you right now. That movie is so amazing. I also love Yalgar. I might be the only person on the planet who loves Yalgar.
I've watched that. We could do those. I've enjoyed those. Good. Yeah.
I love Yalgar. It has such good music, and there's just something so campy and over the top about Feroz Khan, but it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
And all the fashions in it are so good, and people are always like rugged. And I have to say, Feroz Khan, like in his prime, was hot.
Oh yeah.
Do you agree? Right?
Oh yeah. And he also, unlike most men directors, he's equal opportunity sleaze, or at least more equitable sleaze. Like, now he is not necessarily the person I always want to see, but like he gets Vinod Khanna in there, and like he knows what he knows what he's doing.
I have never found Anil Kapoor good looking or appealing on any level ever. I like him very much as an actor, but he's not like
Same.
my favorite or anything. I think he's very underrated as an actor,
Yeah,
actually.
agree.
And he's very sort of like average looking. But the only time I actually found Anil Kapoor hot was in Jambaz. And I think it was the styling that had to do with it. I think that Feroz Khan, I don't know who did the costumes and everything in
That's a
his
good
movies,
question.
but I do think he had a very strong hand in the styling because everybody always looks good in his films. And the other thing I enjoy about his films, this is becoming like a Feroz Khan episode, but the other thing I like about his films that he's not too like prudish and hung up on
No,
morality.
he's not.
And I love that the women in his films always have agency. So it's not always like the
Yeah.
men chasing them or being like, I love you, you're so hot. It's often like the women too. And the way he presents like Zinat Aman and Dimple Kapadia, he would cast these absolutely gorgeous women. Yes, and they just look so amazing. And Jambaz has this one song, Ek To Comes in the Dani, that, Pyar Do Pyar Lo. I've always wondered, where was this song shot? It looks like it's shot in a sex dungeon in Germany.
So that song, I have seen that set in at least 2 other songs. So I don't know where it is, but I'm tempted to think it's like a hotel bar or something because it appears multiple times.
It's so good though. Yeah, and I do think he was also like, so there's some directors that I feel like they are very much also in charge of like overseeing the choreography and overseeing the fashion, like the costumes, because they have this kind of like stamp on it. Like I mean, I'm using a very colloquial Indian word, but it's very like chappa, like they have their chappa all over it. And when you look at even the choreography in Feroz Khan's movies, there's not a lot of like steps, but they're just so well choreographed, and there's just a lot of like, they're still very watchable. Like when you look at the Zinat Aman and Vinod Khanna song, Hum Tumhe Chahte Hain Kaise. Oh, it's so like the sexual tension.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. Oh
Yeah.
yes, we have to do a Feroz Khan
We'll do
episode.
it.
I very much want to watch Jambaz again.
That'd be fun.
So,
He's good
yes.
fun. And I don't, I mean, obviously some of the films he directed his son in are not so great. That's a rough era, but
Wait, who was Feroz Khan's son? I've forgotten. Oh, Fardeen Khan. Oh.
who I
So
don't
bring it again.
dislike, actually. Like, I'm not going to be a great defender of him, but I think he's okay. Like, as far as Nepo
Yeah.
kids go, he's not the worst by any means, but that's a rough, that sort of early 2000s is a rough era. But yeah, I love Feroz Khan. So when I saw that this existed, and I thought the idea of Feroz Khan in a Yash Chopra film was also interesting to me, because also Dharmendra, like I don't associate those two. So that was,
they're just kind of like different kind of worlds,
different flavors within
like
sort of
weird...
masala.
Yeah.
And
but
I will definitely
did a lot of stuff with Feroz Khan, and she has great chemistry with Feroz.
So I will definitely be watching, trying to fill in my Yash Chopra filmography, because I was thinking there's very few directors where I've actually seen all of their films. And I think there are only 2. There's Satyajit Ray and Manmohan Desai, which is like, that's my taste in a nutshell, right? So I need to get Yash Chopra is going to be my next to try to fill in, because I realize I've seen all but one of Kejo, Zoya Akhtar, and Dibakar Banerjee, but I have not seen the Ghost Stories short that they did together, because I can't watch that. So I will probably have to remain all but one for them. But I think Yash Chopra maybe is my director for 2023. Try to catch up.
Nice. Okay.
So good. And also he puts everybody in his films and uses them so well. So this one has a lot of those like character actor kind of uncle guys, and people like Iftikhar, who I think is worthy of a better title than character, or a grander title than character actor. But so he's in it. He only has like 3 scenes, but he's so good. And that, like the locations, the whatever hotel they're using, like it's so stylish. It's so good.
Nice. Yeah, stylish is definitely an adjective I would use to describe Yash Chopra. Also, Feroz Khan, very nice. Yeah, I like their aesthetics very much.
And they don't. I have never experienced either of them as going so far that other things get swamped by the style, which we were talking about a little bit with Kala. Like
or color.
Bansali, right? It's not like that. It's
Yeah,
just it's in service of everything else, and but
yeah.
it is still, there's always something to see on the screen, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any Yash Chopra film where there was a single screen that I just thought was unaesthetic.
Right.
Even when he does movies like Kala Patthar,
Yeah.
it's still the framing, everything is just, it's
Yeah.
so watchable
And
and
even
so
things like,
like
this film
effective.
had a scene of, there's a couple scenes where Feroz Khan is in this enormous red convertible. I'm assuming it's an American car that's been imported. I didn't actually notice if it was left or right drive, but he just lets the car pull up and park in front of the building. And you're like, yeah, I did need to see that, like 4 seconds of that car, because now we know something about this character.
Yeah. And
So
of course, if there was any Hindi film actor that would drive like a red convertible, it would be Feroz Khan, King of Swagger. That should be our title when we do a Feroz Khan episode, King of Swagger.
absolutely. Swag before there was any, I mean, like, other people can just get in line because he was by far
Exactly.
number one by far. Let's talk about TV, because I know you saw
Yes.
some pretty good TV. Tell me about it.
I saw two things on TV. One is Indian, one is American. I watched Khaki, the Bihar chapter, which was extremely enjoyable. I think I saw it either on Netflix or Amazon Prime, I forget which. But it was very, very good. And I sent Beth a lot of screenshots of the lead actor, Karan Tucker, because I thought he looked extremely good in his police uniform. Like, he looked so attractive. It was very reminiscent of like Amitabh back in like Zanjeer and stuff. But yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and it will appeal to people who liked Panchayat, because yes, Panchayat is a comedy, and Khaki, the Bihar chapter, is kind of like a cop. Basically, Karan Thakur gets he's in the IPS, in the Indian police force, and he gets sent to Bihar, which is India's like I don't even know how to describe Bihar. Bihar is its own like planet. And he gets sent to Bihar, and he's this very like upstanding, noble, non-corrupt kind of a cop. And Bihar definitely like opens his eyes to all of the like political shenanigans and all of that stuff, and how he maneuvers it. So it's got a little bit of politics. It's got like the police force stuff in it. It's got like the mafia. It's got like the prison system. It's very, very interesting, but at its core, it's basically a fish out of water story, and it will appeal to anybody who likes fish out of water stories. I mean, I had like a few issues with some of the plot twists and things, but it was really good. And all the acting in it was really good. And there's a guy in it, he plays Chandan Mahato. Unfortunately, I've forgotten his name, but that guy is such a good actor. He plays like the main like antagonist, the villain. He's fabulous, and we need to see more of him in like we need to see him in Indian cinema. But I very much enjoyed Khaki, the Bihar chapter, and I just sort of like binged on it. And it has a lot of people we like. Like, it has Vinay Pathak, it has Ashutosh Rana. Ashutosh Rana was so good. He has like a little bit, he's like the smarmy, like brown noser police officer, but he's always like laughing and smiling. And he's always like that guy who wants to take credit for other people, but he's very like jolly about it. Like, he's very like, yes, so what? Everyone does it. But he's very, very good. Like, I had a smile on my face every time he came on screen, even though he's so infuriating to the lead. And the lead, who is played by Karan Thakur, is like, he's like ramrod straight. He basically has a stick up his, but he's so good. And I just really enjoyed I mean, it's kind of like a black comedy, I would say. Very, very enjoyable. And I would recommend that. And the other thing that I binged on and absolutely loved was Wednesday. So it's the Tim Burton show that's on Netflix that's been taking over. And oh my God, I am in love with that show. It is so filmy, Beth. It is so filmy. Like, I love Hollywood or like American TV when it's filmy. And this is so filmy. It even has the best party song ever, which is Wednesday. You have to at least see the party song.
I do want to watch it. Yeah.
Like, he does this dance, which is so amazing. And I was like, this needed to be in our party song episode. But it's a lot of fun. And one thing I really loved about it, so Wednesday is such a beautifully written character. She is a woman. I mean, she's like 16 years old. She's a woman. She has a lot of agency. She has a mind of her own. She's independent. She's fiery. She is spirited. She is, going to try to like find all the skeletons in the closet. And she just has like a really good author backed role. I loved her character. Like, I just thought it was so great. And then she had, and this show Wednesday has so many amazing women characters. So I think as Filmi ladies, all of those Filmi ladies were great. Also, I have the most gigantic crush on Gwendolyn Christie. She was the only thing I really loved about Game of Thrones, because I do not like that show. But she played Brienne of Tarth, and every time she would come on screen, I would be like, Brienne of Tarth, be my friend. I love you. First of all, she is so tall and like Amazonian, and she has this beautiful, like, statuesque, and there's such a regal vibe to her. I could talk about Gwendolyn Christie all day long, so you'll have to stop me. But she plays she plays like the headmistress of the school, Principal Weems, and she is amazing. The way they've styled her blonde hair and her outfits. It's very like fashionable, and she's gorgeous. And Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, who is Wednesday's mom, is adorable. It's just a very funny show, but it's also very well done. All the women characters have very good roles. They have good dialogues. They're very well presented characters. No one is a caricature of anyone. They're very distinct, and they have very distinct points of view. If you are looking for a TV show or a movie that passes the Bechdel test in spades, I would recommend Wednesday, because anytime the women are talking to each other, they're talking about what they want from life, what they want right now. They're talking about their needs and their wants and things, obstacles that are getting in their way. And very, very rarely are they talking about the men. So I loved it. And there's also a character in there called Enid, who reminded me of me, because she wears a lot of pink and roughly fluffy stuff. And she has a lot of soft toys, and she's very like bubbly. And I have a coworker who reminds me of Wednesday. So when I went into work after I'd like binged on Wednesday, I go, have you seen Wednesday? And they go, yeah, I love that show. And I was like, you reminded me of Wednesday, and I reminded myself of Enid. And she burst out laughing, and she was like, I think that's a fair comparison. But the friendship between Wednesday and Enid is also so good. And there's a scene, especially when Enid gets really mad at Wednesday, and she just kind of like yells at her and shouts at her. So well done, so beautifully done. I highly recommend. Very, very good show, and a very filmy show. And I was very pleased with how Tim Burton and the director, everybody really presented the women. So it made me very, very happy. And it's not that scary, Beth. It won't frighten you. You can watch it, because there's really not that much gross stuff in it, but you have to watch it. It's so good. I've been talking about Wednesday all week.
Well, I mean, I think truly everyone is saying to watch it. So good. Yeah, highly recommend. Okay, now tell me what TV you watched. Okay, this is a bit of a mixed bag. I just because when I sit down to realize how much TV I've watched, I think you watch too much TV. Winter. It is winter, and I was also, as someone who works at a university, I was off for almost 2 weeks, so nice. I had some time off. I also watch a lot of YouTube, like DIY shows and stuff, so that I won't talk about that, but it is one of my favorite things to do. And if anyone's interested, put it in the comments and I will recommend what I like to watch there. So let me start with British mysteries, because I love British mysteries so much. I don't so much read them. I watch them primarily, although I do read some here and there, but I love British mysteries. I love old ones. I love new ones. I love all sorts of ones.
Sorry to interject, but have you watched Broadchurch?
Of course.
Mellar. Oh, love it.
I have an elaborate scale of bleakness in British mysteries. I have a big list of everything I've watched, from most bleak to least bleak, and Broadchurch is all but the most bleak. So there are a few things I haven't watched because I just find them to be too depressing or too much in that direction somehow. I do prefer the sort of sunnier ones, the more Agatha Christie-ish ones, whatever. But so one of my favorite British mystery shows, which I did watch quite a bit of lately, is Midsummer Murders. Have you seen Midsummer Murders?
I have not.
There are 8 million seasons of it. It's been on forever. Each episode is movie length. It is not set in the past or anything like that. It's just contemporary to starting in the late 90s. So you can have fun watching the fashions change over time. It's set in this, fictional English county. where all the villages have funny names, like Badger's Drift, I think is the most famous of their names, or like Midsummer Parva and Midsummer Magna and all these funny names. And these villages have very high death counts, body counts. And
Not very idyllic.
And it is based on books, which I have not read. I'm assuming they've gone well beyond what the books cover at this point, because there's so many episodes, and they've had 2 different main detectives who've changed over time. And first one's way better than the second, but it's still enjoyable. But Midsummer Murders never kills anybody in exactly the same way twice.
Okay.
And that is very fun. So there's like a pile of newspapers fall on someone, a cheese falls on, I guess someone gets clobbered with a cheese, someone gets run through with a pitchfork. Like it's very creative, and that's very enjoyable.
Okay.
But I love Midsummer's Murders. It's just the right amount of engaging for me. So you can sort of drift off for a few minutes, or like go get more tea and come back, and it's fine. And also it's got a great, ever-changing cast of other villagers, because they're moving villages all the time. And I love that whole, like, it looks cute on the surface, but actually everybody's horrible to each other. That's enjoyable to me for some reason.
Right.
But and especially the first detective, I love most of all detective shows that are about someone who's good at their job, and they do it because they're good at it, and they maybe like trying to help people, but they are not trying to exorcise some demon from their past, like Broadchurch guy, right? Like a little of that goes a long way with me. And the Midsummer people, they're just good detectives, and that's all I need. Good detectives, not too bleak. Also along that line for me mostly is a show called Whitstable Pearl, which is on the streaming service Acorn. And that's about a woman, private eye, and the cop that she, is in cahoots with to solve things at the beach, the seaside town of Whitstable in England, which I have visited. So when I first saw the show, I was like, oh, I just went there. It's so cute. But again, looks like a cute seaside town, but there's also, stuff brewing. Right. I've also rewatched recently the excellent streaming show on Peacock, Rutherford Falls, which is about a local history society and local Indigenous Americans and their work to sort of tell their own story in a cultural center. There's also business dealings with the casino. It's so funny. And as a museum professional, this gets at a lot of things that are actually part of my work world, which you don't see. I mean, museums are almost never on TV, especially not in any kind of reasonable way. So that is. Huh?
Night at the museum.
Yes, excellent. That is definitely what happens at museums at night. I can't tell you anything more about it, but that is definitely true. And like Ross from Friends, right, worked at a museum, but and especially in Rutherford Falls, they're at a smaller place. Like it's not the Met or the big New York museum. It's a smaller place, which is where most of us work. And it's so good. It has so much representation of Indigenous ideas, and has a lot of Indigenous actors in it, which is, very unusual in the US, especially for a show that's not a Western.
Right.
I don't like Westerns as a whole. So and it got canceled after only 2 seasons, which is too bad. But if you get a chance to watch Rutherford Falls, or someone with a Peacock account, definitely try to watch it. It's so funny. I have been also watching, I watched the most recent season of Virgin River on Netflix. Do you watch Virgin River?
No.
So it's based on a series of books that I haven't read, that probably I would not read based on the description. It's got very strong sort of Hallmark Lifetime vibes, but for me, it's better done. Like the acting is better, the locations, it's Northern California in a small town. It's very pretty. The lead actor is actually the guy who played Darcy from Bride and Prejudice, Martin Henderson. Who does an excellent American accent. I don't think I would ever know he wasn't American if I didn't actually know he wasn't American. He's very good at it. What's his name? Tim Mathewson is the one of the main doctor in town. He's a staple of American movies for like 40 some years. You would definitely recognize him. It's basically a romance, but small town stuff happens. It's fairly brainless but enjoyable. And then I have been rewatching basically my favorite TV show of all time, Northern Exposure. Have you ever watched?
The one that's set in Canada?
Alaska.
Oh, Alaska. Okay.
So
no, I'm not seeing it.
It is not streaming anywhere. I bought the DVDs because I love it so much. I loved it so much when it was on in the 90s. For those who don't know, it is about a doctor from New York who goes to Alaska and has to be a doctor in a small town. because he took a
Right.
scholarship from the town to pay his med school expenses.
Ah,
So he is there kind of serving out his end of the contract. And it's, again, fish out of water, which is a premise I tend to enjoy, but it's just all the characters are so interesting. The Alaska, it's actually filmed in Washington State, but it's set in Alaska. So there's a lot of like, there'll be a moose wandering by, and like, so the climate sort of plays an interesting role. Like, oh, New York is the fifth character in Sex and the City. Like, Alaska is a character in this show, and there's interesting, I assume largely fictional weather phenomena that they create that have interesting effects. Or like, what do you do when it's light almost all day or dark almost all day? They do some interesting stuff with that. So if you get a chance to watch Northern Exposure, if your library has it on DVD, do check it out. It's extremely funny, but it's not only funny, and it has great Indigenous representation, and it's just so well acted and so funny, and it holds up. It's almost, some of it's 30 years old now, and it's still great.
Who's the lead in it? Because for some reason I've seen Northern Exposure.
Yeah,
That's
so
not Ed Norton.
John Corbett is one of the leads, and he was Aiden on Sex and the City.
Love John Corbett.
And he plays the radio DJ.
He was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes, he
also.
was. Yes, he was.
So handsome.
Yes, he's very handsome, and he plays like so he's kind of a hippie spiritual character. He was in jail in West Virginia. Then he comes up to Alaska. He rides a motorcycle. He's always reading philosophy. He does art, and then he contrasts nicely with the doctor, who is Rob Morrow, who you've definitely seen in things. He was in that CBS mystery show called Numbers.
I've seen Numbers.
So he's the FBI brother of the mathematician.
You'll
recognize him. He's in other things too, but he's very good in this, I think. And then a lot of the other people, some of them are Broadway actors, but there's a lot of people in and out that you'll recognize. Anthony Edwards is in it for a little while as a lawyer who, due to environmental stress, has to live in a bubble. Because he's sensitive to all the terrible environmental changes, and he's always like growing hydroponic vegetables and measuring the air, the chemicals in the air and stuff. He's very funny. There's a character who was a NASA astronaut who now lives is like kind of the de facto mayor of town, and like is the local rich guy who's always trying to invest and make it, a new booming frontier. There's an Indigenous character who's a filmmaker. He is not actually an Indigenous actor, I should say. That would not be cast that way anymore, but I believe he's the only person who's not actually Indigenous who plays an Indigenous character. There's no excuse for that. I will not defend that. He is also delightful, the character and the actor. And I'm only naming the men. I apologize. There's a lot of interesting women in it too, including a woman who, after her husband dies, moves to Alaska and runs the general store. She's very funny. Wow. There's a woman she's supposed to be like 18 or something, and a beauty pageant winner from Saskatchewan who moves to town. She works in the restaurant. And she has the most amazing clothes. It's so fun.
So it's a comedy though, right?
It's a comedy mostly. Yeah. Okay. It's not a sitcom, but it is a comedy, I would say. And it's, 1 hour minus the ads episodes, so like 45 minutes, highly watchable if you never saw it. But yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite TV show of all time, other than The Simpsons. So those two, both. So good.
It reminded me a little bit of Twin Peaks, but Twin Peaks is clearly not a comedy.
Yeah, and so same time period, right? And Northern Exposure is quirky and weird, but not aggressively so like Twin Peaks is. And what I love about Northern Exposure is it has these people who are weird and who are characters, but the show just kind of lets them be humans. And it's not trying to really teach you anything with that, other than like, obviously, like, get to know people for who they are and kind of live and let live, right? Like, not a big deal. It's not a preachy show at all. And it's not a like deliberately provocative show either, but it does actually have things to say about social issues and things like that, but it's fairly low key about it.
Interesting. My favorite TV show is very different from yours. My favorite TV show is The Sopranos, and I've seen it 5 times, start to finish. I can quote from it. Like, it's my favorite show of all time. I know entire dialogues by heart, but yeah, I love that show so much. And Tony is like, ah, but yeah.
I have never watched The Sopranos, mostly because I don't subscribe to whatever platform that's on, but also I've just felt like it'd probably be a little violent for me. But I've certainly enjoyed some mobster set things in my day. So
Yeah, that's so funny because like mob movies are like my favorite genre of, because like my favorite movie of all time is the Godfather trilogy, and my
So have
favorite
you
TV
watched the
is,
Feroz Khan Godfather?
no, I would not do such a travesty,
You
Beth.
have to watch Dharmatma. It's so good. It's so good.
No,
Yes, you
no,
have to watch it.
I prefer Coppola.
You can still prefer Coppola and watch it.
Is it terrible though?
No, it's great.
Actually good. I can tell if you're yanking my chain if you're
No, I swear I'm not yanking your chain. Now, people may disagree with me, and your mileage may vary, of course. Listeners, if you have seen Dharmatma, please, and you think Pitu should watch it, please tell her in the comments or on Instagram. And you can tell me on Twitter and I'll forward her the note. I genuinely love that movie. I've watched it several times. I think it's a very good remake. And it is Feroz Khan all over the shop. Like, oh boy, great.
Because I mean, in Indian cinema, my favorite mob movie is definitely Satya. Satya is like,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and
It's
then I
not
also
like that.
really
It's
like,
not like that.
okay. Of course, Nayakan is so great,
Sure.
which is the Tamil, so good. But no, they still don't hold a candle to Godfather for me. Godfather is just the Godfather. But what was I going to say? Oh, you know, it's so funny. When I moved to New Jersey, this was a long time back.
Oh no.
The first thing I did was when I moved into so we technically hadn't moved to New Jersey. We'd moved to New York, to Manhattan. The first thing I did is I opened Google Maps and I tried to find Tony's like fictional house, like the actual house in New Jersey where The Sopranos was shot, like his home. And I discovered that it was like an hour away. And then I said to my husband, I just randomly said, do you think maybe on Friday evening we could go to North Caldwell, New Jersey? And my husband goes, what is North Caldwell? And I was like, and then he looks at my face and he goes, is it Tony Soprano's home? And I was like, yeah. I want to see where the Sopranos and the Cusamanos and everybody lived.
I love that you moved to Manhattan and you instantly wanted to do tourist things in New Jersey, which is the opposite of literally everyone else on the planet.
But it's Tony Soprano. I know the fictional addresses of all the characters. And then when I moved to Jersey City, the first thing I did was, this is what I always do. I moved to Jersey City and I was like, let's go and find Chrissy Moltisanti's house, his apartment, because his character lives in Jersey City. And then my husband was like, no, that is not a safe part to go to. I was like, no, but we can just drive past it. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So is there, I was going to say something and I forgot because I was too busy laughing.
That's kind of it for what we've watched, I think, right? Is there anything coming up other than the obvious?
Oh, Patan.
Yes, that we want to see.
I am not excited for Patan.
I'm also not that excited, except for the idea of seeing Shah Rukh on the big screen. If he were not in it, I would not go.
Oh no, for sure. I'm only like, I saw like that jetpack scene. I was like, excuse me, what? And I was like, I'm only watching it for Shah Rukh. But I have to say, as a Shah Rukh Khan fan, I'm so tired of watching things only because I'm a Shah Rukh Khan fan. I would, for once in recent history, I would just really like to go watch a movie because I want to watch the movie instead of because I'm a Shah Rukh Khan fan.
So I'm not particularly an action movie person, but so to my non-expert eyes, this looks fairly well executed, although there was some shonky CGI in the trailer. But overall, like, I feel like if I like action films more, I would probably be like, okay. And I do like spy films, and I, like the Tiger films were way better than I thought they would be. And like everyone, I enjoy the heck out of War, and I've seen it multiple times. So, the idea of adding Shah Rukh to the Yash Raj spy universe, that concept, by the way, like, okay. I feel like maybe Yash Raj is not the, anyway, we'll see. I am prepared to have an open mind and go in for it. Watch it for what it is. Yeah, I will probably enjoy it. I like Deepika, like, okay, spies I do not like John Abraham. I do not think he is good. I fully expect the face-offs between him and Shah Rukh to be not as satisfying as they could have been if they'd cast someone else, but like, okay, like he can make it work with Arjun Rampal, so same guy, right? Like, all right, but Yeah, so like if it was more my kind of movie, I would certainly be more excited about it. But
Yeah.
I love going to the movies. I will certainly enjoy sitting there. I suspect there will be a crowd even where I live, so that'll be fun, you know. I
Yeah.
keep checking the movie theater website to see like have they booked it yet? Like can I buy my tickets? I won't be first day first show because I have an office job, but I could be first day third show or whatever.
Yeah.
I would love to go. Like,
Yeah.
you
I'm
know.
definitely gonna go, and it's always like a Shah Rukh Khan movie in the theater is always an event. My cousin and I used to pride ourselves on the fact that, like, when I lived in India, or even when I was visiting India, we would always watch a Shah Rukh Khan movie first day, first show. So we would stand in line for advance tickets and everything. And it was like a
Yeah.
point of pride.
Yeah, that's
And I
fun.
remember the year the Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi came out, I was gonna go to India, and I told my cousin, the minute you find out the release date, you let me know because I'll book my tickets accordingly, and I'll have
Love
to
it.
like maneuver for jet lag. So I had been in India for 3 days, and we went to see it like first day, third show, and I was still bitching about the fact that we missed, like, we didn't watch it first day, first show. We saw it first day, third show, and she was like, "What is wrong with you? You came to India 2 days ago. It's fine." And I was like, "Yeah, but you know." So it used to be a point of pride, and now it's like, what is this movie? I was almost scared to say that I'm not excited about Pathan because I thought I would be judged, but
No, that's funny. You and I have about things that are very popular. We seem to have very similar opinions. So this is a safe space.
I know.
Also,
This
it's a
is a
safe
safe
space. If
space.
you're excited, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's what I do. I have to give a shout out to our commentators before we end this episode. I am really, really enjoying and loving all the comments that y'all are writing on YouTube. I have so much fun responding to them, and I gotta say, like, our commentators are such smart cookies. Like, they write these like long paragraphs full of all these like insights and all of these, like, they take that so seriously, and they'll be like, "Well, I thought da 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 da," and I'm like, "Oh, that's such a good point. I never even thought of that." So I'm learning a lot from the comments. I'm very much
Aw.
enjoying them, and I'm also finding like our commentators are really good at reviewing films, because I watched Lal Singh Chadda purely because of our
Oh, right.
listeners
Mhm.
telling me that we should watch it, and I very much enjoyed it. I agreed with their opinions on Gulab Gang and, you know, on other films as well. So just wanted to shout out to the comments. Just thank you for commenting. I
Lovely.
very much enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. And please keep commenting. So
So unlike the rest of the internet, do read the YouTube comments on our
yes.
channel.
I know we amazingly have had really good YouTube comments, and I've not had to like delete anything or
We
block
are very
anything for being
small.
awful. We're very small. This is true.
But we are women having opinions on the internet. So usually that is enough to make terrible things happen. But so far, so
Yes.
good.
Well, let's not tempt the fates. Let's
No,
not tempt the
no,
fates.
we'll keep it. We love how things are. And we have some great conversations on Twitter as well. So those who don't know, I handle Twitter and Pitu does YouTube and Instagram. So we kind of see
Mhm.
different things.
Does anyone even go to our Facebook page? I
Well,
don't
so I am currently locked out of my Facebook account for reasons that
know.
don't need to go into. So I haven't been able to get in there to update it.
Okay.
But no, no one is using Facebook. But I feel like I think not using Facebook is a great energy to bring into
Yeah.
2023, frankly.
Yeah.
So
I feel
it
like we
might
just made
die.
a Facebook page because we were like, well, that's like, we have to. I mean, you
We
know.
don't. And we apologize if you were trying to find us there. Please try to find us on Instagram or Twitter instead, or here on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're sorry. And mostly I'm sorry because I was the one doing Facebook, but Zuckerberg.
Shenanigans. All right. Well, thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Filmy Ladies. We appreciate you. We very much love the fact that you watch our show, because it's so much fun for us to have sort of like this little community of people with amazing thoughts and opinions and insights. And we will be next. We will be back next week with another episode. We don't know what the subject will be yet. But thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And bye from the Filmy Ladies.